I still can't quite believe it happened. Like, I'm sitting here, staring at the wall, and every single thing I thought I knew about my life, about us, just evaporated. The person I loved, the person I planned a future with, she had just walked out that door after I told her to leave. And the truth? It was so much worse than I ever imagined. But let me take you back to how I even got to this point, because for a long time, I was completely clueless. Olivia and I had been together for 3 years, lived together for 1. We talked marriage, kids, the whole 9 yards. I trusted her, completely. So when she casually mentioned 2 weeks ago at dinner, while cutting into her chicken, "Hey, babe, Chloe, Mia, and a few of the girls are planning this trip to Charleston, South Carolina, this weekend. Just need to get away, have some fun in the sun," I actually thought it was great. I looked up and smiled. "That sounds awesome," I told her. "You definitely deserve a break." And I meant it. She'd been working really long hours, seemed stressed. A weekend with her friends? Perfect. She just laughed. "You're not invited though, it's strictly a girls' thing. No boys allowed." I laughed with her. "Have a great time," I said. Seriously, the thought of being suspicious never, ever crossed my mind. Over the next week, I watched her get excited. I even helped her pick out dresses for the clubs, drove her to the airport that Friday morning. "Text me when you land. Be safe. Have the best time," I told her as she grabbed her suitcase. She blew me a kiss. "I will. Love you so much." Friday and Saturday, I just did my usual bachelor weekend stuff. Video games, gym. Nothing special. Olivia texted me photos, the beach, her and her girlfriends with cocktails. Typical vacation stuff. Everything seemed completely normal. Then, Saturday afternoon around 3 p.m., my phone rang. It was Olivia's mom, Susan. Susan and I always got along great. She basically adopted me. "Hey, Susan, what's up?" I answered cheerfully. "Hi, honey. How are you doing?" she asked, and I could tell immediately something was off in her voice. "I'm good. Just hanging out at home," I replied. Then she said it. Something that made my stomach drop like a stone. "Wait, you're at home? Why aren't you in Charleston with Olivia and everyone?" I literally froze. "What do you mean?" I stammered, my heart starting to race. "Olivia's on a girls' trip with Chloe and Mia." There was a pause, and then Susan's voice, bewildered. "A girls' trip? Honey, it's a couple's vacation. Olivia told me you couldn't make it because of work." My hand was shaking, holding the phone. "Susan, I'm confused. She specifically told me it was a girls' trip, that no guys were invited." I tried to keep my voice steady. "No, that's not right at all," Susan said, sounding concerned now. "Chloe and her boyfriend Alex are there, Mia and her husband Ethan. And I thought Olivia said her friend Daniel was coming too." The name Daniel. When she said that name, everything inside me went cold. Daniel is Olivia's ex-boyfriend from college. They dated for a year before we got together. She always insisted they were just friends now. I'd met him a few times, never really loved the guy. Always felt like he looked at Olivia in a way that wasn't quite friendly enough. But I'd pushed those thoughts away because I trusted her. "Daniel? Her ex-Daniel?" I asked, and even I could hear the edge in my voice now. "Well, yes. I mean, they're friends, so I didn't think it was strange." "But wait, she told you it was girls only?" Susan asked, sounding horrified. "Yes, Susan. She specifically said girls' trip." "No boys allowed," I said, pacing around my living room now. "Oh my God. I had no idea." "I'm so sorry," Susan said, her shock genuine. After we hung up, I just stood there. My girlfriend lied directly to my face. She was on a couple's vacation with her ex-boyfriend, and I'd been completely clueless. Then I remembered. Olivia had left her iPad at home. And that iPad was synced to her iMessage. I'd never snooped before, never felt the need to. But right then, I needed to know the truth. I grabbed the iPad from our bedroom, unlocked it, and opened iMessage. Immediately, I saw a group chat, Charleston Babes, with about 6 people in it. My hands were trembling as I clicked. The messages went back about a month. Right away, I could see this was never a girls' trip. Can't wait for this couple's retreat. It's going to be so romantic. Chloe had written. Do we have the villa rental confirmed? I want to make sure there are enough rooms for all the couples, Mia added. And then I saw Olivia's messages. Yes, villa is booked. 3 bedrooms, so we'll have to share, but it'll be cozy. I kept scrolling, feeling sicker with every message. Is Daniel really coming? I thought you guys broke up years ago, Chloe had written. Olivia's response, yeah, we're just friends now. It's totally chill. And honestly, I didn't tell OP about him coming because he gets weird about Daniel sometimes. Easier this way. My stomach churned reading that. She knew I'd be uncomfortable, so she just decided to lie instead. There were messages about booking couples massages, about going to clubs together, about sharing rooms. Daniel and I can share the smaller room. We're both singles, so it's whatever, Olivia had written. I nearly threw the iPad across the room. Single, she referred to herself as single. I took screenshots of everything. Every damning message, every lie, every reference to this being a couple's trip. There were photos in the chat, too. Recent ones from the airport. Olivia and Daniel standing close together, his arm around her waist. More photos from the beach earlier today. All of them as couples. Daniel and Olivia lying on beach chairs next to each other. Her hand on his chest in one photo. I spent the next hour reading through everything, checking her direct messages with Daniel, too. They'd been texting regularly for weeks. Nothing explicitly inappropriate, but definitely more friendly than I'd been aware of. Can't wait to see you in Charleston, he'd written. Me, too. It's been too long, she replied with a kiss emoji. I sat there on our bed, surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal. Part of me wanted to call her right then and scream. But a calmer part told me to wait. To let her come home and confront her with all the evidence at once. I called Susan back and sent her the screenshots. Oh my God, she kept saying as her phone pinged. I had no idea she'd lied to you like this. I'm so sorry. Susan wanted to call Olivia immediately, but I asked her to wait. I wanted to confront her face to face. I needed to see her reaction when I showed her that I knew everything. Susan reluctantly agreed. After we hung up, I just sat there in the darkness, the iPad glowing next to me. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia, missing you so much, baby. Wish you were here. The sheer audacity of that message, while she was probably lying on a beach next to her ex-boyfriend, made something inside me harden. I didn't respond. I just stared at those lying words and knew that everything between us was over. Sunday morning, I woke up after barely sleeping, my mind racing. 3 more texts from Olivia, all sent late last night. Messages about an incredible dinner, hitting the clubs, a drunk love you so much babe at 1 a.m. Each one felt like a knife. Twisting in my gut because I knew exactly who everyone was. I could picture her dancing with Daniel while sending me these lies. I didn't respond, just left her on read. And she noticed, because another message came around 2 a.m. asking if I was okay, why I wasn't responding. The irony of her being worried about my silence while on vacation with her ex-boyfriend was almost funny, in the darkest way possible. I spent most of Sunday going through more iPad messages. I found even more damning evidence. A conversation from 3 weeks ago where Olivia told Chloe she knew she should probably tell me Daniel was coming, but I'd just make it into this big thing and she didn't want the drama. Chloe had asked if that wasn't kind of messed up, what if he found out? Olivia had written back that I wouldn't find out, and what he didn't know wouldn't hurt him, that they were all adults here. Reading that made me realize this wasn't just a spontaneous lie. This was calculated. Premeditated. She'd actively chosen deception over honesty weeks ago. There were more photos deeper in the chat, planning screenshots from weeks ago. Images of the villa rental confirmation showing 3 bedrooms with king beds. Detailed messages about room assignments where Olivia had volunteered to share with Daniel since they were the only singles. That word kept appearing. Singles. Like our 3-year relationship and shared apartment meant nothing. Like I'd been erased with a single word choice. Around noon, my best friend Chris called. He wanted to grab lunch. I just broke down and told him everything. He kept repeating what the heck as I explained the girls' trip lie, the couple's vacation reality, her ex-boyfriend being there, Susan's call that exposed everything. Chris is the kind of friend who'd drive to Charleston right then to confront them. But I told him I had a plan. I was going to wait for her to come home. Confront her face to face. He said he'd be blowing up her phone if he were me. But I explained that I wanted to see her face when I showed her everything I knew. I wanted to watch her try to explain away the mountain of proof I'd collected. We talked for over an hour. Chris helped me think through the practical logistics of what would happen next. The apartment situation, the lease in both our names, who would move out, how to separate our lives that had become so intertwined. After talking to Chris, I felt slightly better, more clear-headed about what needed to happen. I started thinking practically about the inevitable breakup, because that's what this was. There was no coming back from this level of betrayal. I looked around our apartment, really looked at it, seeing all the shared things we'd accumulated. The photos on the walls from our trips and celebrations, her stuff mixed with my stuff, the couch we'd picked out, the kitchen gadgets we'd received as housewarming gifts. A wave of sadness washed over me. This was different from the anger I'd felt yesterday. This morning, I'd woken up furious. But now I just felt tired and sad. Mourning the relationship I thought I had. Mourning the future I thought we were building. My phone buzzed again with another text from Olivia. Something cheerful about heading to the beach for their last day. Mentioning her flight leaving tonight, saying she couldn't wait to see me tomorrow. The casual cheerfulness, the complete lack of awareness that her entire world was about to explode when she walked through our apartment door, was surreal to witness. I decided to start preparing for the confrontation. I organized all my evidence like I was building a legal case. I created a folder on my phone with all the screenshots, organized chronologically. The group chat going back a full month. Her direct messages with Daniel. Photos of them together at the airport and on the beach. That devastating message where she called herself single and volunteered to share a room with him. I also wrote down a detailed timeline of her lies. Every time she'd mentioned the girls' trip, every fabricated detail. I knew she'd try to gaslight me, try to make me doubt what I'd seen. I'd read enough relationship posts to know exactly how these confrontations went. The deceiver always tries to minimize, deflect, blame the other person for snooping. Anything to avoid taking full responsibility. Sunday evening, I got another call from Susan, checking in. I told her I was okay, just processing. She said she still couldn't believe her daughter had done this, that she'd raised her better. She sounded genuinely heartbroken. I asked if she'd talked to Olivia. She said no. She wanted to respect my wishes and let me handle it first, but she was deeply disappointed. We talked logistics, and Susan offered to come over, but I told her I needed to do this one-on-one first. She told me she was on my side, that what Olivia had done was unacceptable. That honestly meant a lot, because I'd been worried her mom might defend her. Before we hung up, Susan said something that almost made me tear up. She told me I was a good man, deserved better, and whatever happened, I was still family to her. That hit me hard. I realized I wasn't just losing Olivia. I was losing her family, who I'd grown close to. The rest of Sunday evening dragged on forever. Every minute felt like an hour. Olivia kept sending updates about their last night. Photos of the sunset. A video of everyone at a fancy restaurant. In the background of one video, I could clearly see Daniel sitting next to her, his hand casually resting on the back of her chair. Intimate. Familiar. She deliberately angled the camera to keep him out of frame, but he was still visible if you looked carefully. The calculated nature of it, the way she was curating what she showed me versus the reality of what was happening, just reinforced it. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional, systematic deception. Around 11 p.m., she texted that they were boarding soon, would be home around 2 a.m., told me not to wake up. She'd just climb into bed quietly. I responded for the first time all day with just 3 words, "I'll be awake." Nothing else. No explanation or warmth. I saw the 3 dots appear and disappear several times, like she was typing and deleting. Sensing something was off, but not knowing what. Finally, she just sent back okay. "See you soon, red heart." I stared at that heart emoji, wondering how she could send me that symbol while literally sitting next to the man she'd been lying to me about for weeks. I couldn't sleep that night. Just lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, playing through different versions of how the confrontation would go. Would she cry immediately? Would she try to deny everything? Would she get angry and defensive, turn it around on me for going through her iPad? I thought about all the moments she'd been lying directly to my face. All the times she'd come home from supposed planning drinks with the girls and kissed me hello, knowing she was planning this trip with her ex. I thought about how she'd let me help her pack, let me drive her to the airport, let me be this supportive, trusting boyfriend. While she was actively betraying me. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. By the time I heard her key turning in the door at 2:15 a.m., I was sitting on the couch in the dark living room, wide awake. Ready. I heard her trying to be quiet, the sound of her suitcase wheels, the door closing softly. She turned on the hallway light and visibly jumped when she saw me sitting there in the darkness, like some kind of ghost. She gave this nervous laugh, asked why I was sitting in the dark, said I'd scared her. She looked tan and relaxed. Her hair still had that beachy wave. She was wearing a Charleston tank top I'd never seen before, probably bought with him. "We need to talk," I told her, my voice coming out much colder than I'd intended. Though maybe that was exactly how it should sound. Her smile faltered immediately. She asked if everything was all right. Mentioned I'd been weird with my texts. I stood up. "No, everything is definitely not all right. Sit down. We need to have a serious conversation about your trip." She looked confused, but I could see it now. That flash of fear in her eyes. Some part of her knowing that something had gone wrong with her elaborate deception. She tried to maintain the act. Said her trip was great, she'd had such a good time, started pulling out her phone, saying she wanted to show me all the photos. I cut her off. "I've already seen the photos. All of them. Every single one." Olivia's face went completely white. Her voice was shaking now as she asked what I meant. The confident facade cracking in real time. I pulled out my phone with all the screenshots ready. "I've seen everything. The group chat, the messages with Daniel, the photos of you two together. All of it." She opened her mouth, closed it, then managed to say she could explain. "Go ahead then," I said. "Explain why you told me this was a girls' trip when it was actually a couple's vacation with your ex-boyfriend." Despite my attempt to stay calm, my voice was rising. She sat down heavily on the couch. I could literally see her mind racing, trying to figure out how much I knew, calculating what she could still deny. She went with the most obvious lie first, claiming Daniel was just there because Chloe invited him, that she didn't even know he was coming until the last minute. The lie was so blatant, so easily disprovable, I almost laughed. I swiped to a screenshot from 3 weeks ago. Then explain why you wrote about sharing the smaller room with Daniel, since you were both single. Her eyes widened as she saw her own words on my phone screen. Then came the deflection I'd been expecting. She accused me of going through her messages. Said it was a violation of her privacy. Trying to make me the bad guy. I felt the anger surge. You lied to me for weeks, went on vacation with your ex-boyfriend after telling me it was a girls' trip, and you're worried about privacy? She stood up now, going on the offensive, insisting nothing had happened with Daniel, that they were just friends, that I was being paranoid. I was almost shouting as I listed everything she'd done. Calling herself single. Lying to my face every single day. We argued in circles for another 20 minutes. Her trying to minimize and justify every lie while I showed her screenshot after screenshot. She cried. She apologized. She said she knew it was wrong, but she hadn't wanted to deal with me being insecure about Daniel. The victim blaming in that statement was breathtaking. I asked her why she hadn't just had an honest conversation instead of lying and sneaking around. She admitted she'd lied, but still insisted nothing physical had happened, that they were really just friends. I told her that even if I believed that, which I absolutely didn't, she'd still destroyed every bit of trust between us. She'd planned this elaborate deception, gotten her friends in on it, lied to her own mother. She was full-on sobbing now, reaching for me, begging me to forgive her, saying she'd do anything, that she loved me. I stepped back from her touch. I don't think you do love me, I told her quietly. People who love each other don't do things like this. Then my phone rang. It was Susan, calling at almost 3 a.m. I told Olivia I had to take this and walked into the bedroom. Susan apologized for calling so late, but said she'd just gotten off the phone with Chloe's mother and there was something I needed to know. My stomach dropped. What is it? Susan's voice was shaking. Chloe's mom had just revealed that Olivia and Daniel were sharing a room. That they'd requested a 2-bedroom villa specifically. The 3rd bedroom was for Chloe and Alex. My blood went cold. Susan confirmed Chloe's mom had made the booking and showed her the confirmation. It was always a 2-bedroom setup. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Olivia had just looked me in the eye minutes ago and sworn they had separate rooms. I walked back into the living room where Olivia was still sitting on the couch, wiping her eyes. Your mom just called, I told her coldly. Linda talked to Chloe's mom, who made the villa booking. I watched the color drain from Olivia's face again as she realized another lie had been exposed. Do you want to revise your story about having separate rooms? She just stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, unable to form words. She stammered something about how it wasn't what I thought. They just shared to save money. Nothing happened. I lost it then. I shouted at her to stop lying. To just stop freaking lying for once. Even now, caught completely red-handed, she was still trying to lie to me. She started crying harder and finally admitted yes, they shared a room, but swore on everything they didn't sleep together. That's when I told her to get out. She looked up at me in shock, asking what I meant. I repeated it. Get out of the apartment right now. Go stay with your mom, go stay with Daniel for all I care. But you need to leave immediately. She started begging, saying she had nowhere to go, that it was the middle of the night. That we could talk about this in the morning. I told her she should have thought about that before she decided to blow up our entire relationship. She could come back tomorrow when I was at work to get her stuff, but right now I needed her gone. She looked at me for a long moment, maybe hoping I'd back down. But I just stared back, completely done with her and her lies. Finally, she grabbed her purse and her suitcase, still wearing her Charleston clothes, and walked to the door. She tried one more time, this isn't over. We need to talk about this properly. I told her, yeah, it is over. We're done. She stood there for another moment, then opened the door and left. I stood there in the silence for a long time after she left. Processing. Then I did something I didn't expect. I found Daniel's number in Olivia's iPad messages and called him at 3:30 a.m. He answered after a few rings, sounding groggy and confused. I identified myself as Olivia's boyfriend. There was a long pause before he said, "Hey," suddenly sounding very awake and very nervous. I told him I wasn't calling to threaten him. I just had one question and I wanted him to be honest. After a cautious okay from him, I asked directly if he'd slept with Olivia this weekend. Another long pause. Then he tried to deflect, saying he didn't want to get in the middle of relationship stuff. I cut him off. The relationship is already over. I just need to know the truth. He sighed deeply. And then he told me. Yes, they'd hooked up, but Olivia had told him we were basically broken up, that she was going to end things when she got back. I actually laughed. A bitter, hollow sound that surprised even me. We live together, I told him. We've been talking about marriage just last month. But sure, basically broken up. He apologized, said he didn't know, that she'd made it sound like we were done. He actually sounded genuine, and I found myself thanking him for being honest, noting that it was more than Olivia had been. I hung up and sat back down on the couch, just staring at the wall. It was worse than I'd thought. She hadn't just lied about the trip. She'd actually cheated. And then she'd looked me in the eye, repeatedly, and denied it, swearing on everything that nothing had happened. My phone started buzzing with texts from Olivia, paragraph after paragraph of apologies and explanations. I didn't read any of them. Just turned my phone face down on the coffee table. The next morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day boxing up all of Olivia's stuff. Susan came over around noon with coffee and pastries, gave me a long hug, and helped me pack. She kept saying how ashamed she was of her daughter while folding Olivia's clothes. I told her this wasn't her fault, that she couldn't control Olivia's choices. We worked in silence for a while, the apartment filling with cardboard boxes. Then Susan said something that surprised me. She told me she'd never mentioned this before, but Olivia had done something similar to Daniel back in college. There was another guy involved in their breakup. I looked at her, shocked, because I'd always been told that Daniel had broken up with Olivia. Susan explained that no, that was just the story Olivia had told everyone. She and her husband had known the truth. Olivia had a pattern of this behavior, and Susan had been hoping she'd grown out of it. Clearly, she hadn't. That information was somehow both validating and devastating at the same time. By evening, all of Olivia's stuff was packed and stacked by the door. She'd texted saying she'd come get it tomorrow with her dad. I ordered pizza, cracked open a beer, and finally opened Reddit on my laptop. I'd been lurking on relationship advice subreddits for months, reading other people's drama and never thinking I'd have my own story to share. I created a throwaway account and started typing out everything that had happened over the past 48 hours. I posted it around 9 p.m., not really expecting much response, just needing to get it all out of my system. Within an hour, the post had hundreds of upvotes and comments. People were supportive, angry on my behalf, sharing their own similar stories of betrayal. One comment stood out though, suggesting I should send the screenshots to everyone who went on the trip, pointing out that they'd all lied to me and enabled Olivia's deception. I hadn't thought about that. But the commenter was right. Chloe, Mia, all of them had known and said nothing to me. So, I did something petty, something I'm not entirely proud of, but also don't regret at all. I created a group text with everyone who'd been on the trip, including Daniel. I sent a simple message: "Thank you all for being such great friends and helping Olivia lie to me about the couple's trip." I attached a screenshot of her telling me it was a girls' trip, followed by multiple screenshots of the group chat, proving everyone knew it was couples from the beginning. Then, I muted the chat and watched my phone explode with notifications. Dozens of messages flooding in as everyone scrambled to respond and justify their silence. 3 days later, Olivia came to get the last of her stuff. We barely spoke, just loaded boxes into her dad's truck in heavy silence while he gave me these apologetic looks. Before they left, Olivia turned to me. She said she really did love me, that she'd just made a huge mistake. I looked at her, this person I thought I'd spend my life with, and felt absolutely nothing. No, I told her, a mistake is forgetting to text back or double booking plans. What you did was a choice. Actually, multiple choices. Hundreds of small choices to lie to me every single day. She didn't say anything to that. Just got in the truck and left. 2 weeks later, I was doing okay. Actually, better than okay. I've been going to the gym more consistently, hanging out with Chris and my other friends. Even went on a date that Chris's girlfriend set up. Nothing serious, just coffee and conversation. But it felt good to know I could move forward and meet new people. Then I got a call from Susan with some interesting news. She told me Olivia and Daniel had broken up already. I asked, surprised, how that happened so fast. Susan explained that apparently, once they were actually dating openly and not sneaking around, the excitement wore off completely. Plus, Chloe had told everyone in their friend group what had really happened, and most of them had taken my side. Susan mentioned that Olivia had been asking about me, and I told her to tell Olivia I said good luck. Susan laughed and said I was handling this remarkably well. I told her honestly that I'd dodged a bullet. And every day I was more grateful I'd found out the truth before marriage or kids made things infinitely more complicated. That night I updated my Reddit post with all the aftermath details. The confrontation, the confession from Daniel, the petty group text revenge, everything. The post went viral. Over 10,000 upvotes, hundreds of comments. People asking for updates and thanking me for sharing. Someone even made a TikTok reading the entire story that got millions of views. Olivia somehow found the post, recognized herself despite the changed names, and texted me furious, asking how dare I air our private business online. I replied with just 4 words, asking if she meant my business, and then blocked her number permanently. 6 months later, I'm actually happy, dating someone new who's honest and communicative. Everything Olivia wasn't. I still see Susan occasionally for coffee, and she always apologizes for her daughter, but I tell her the same thing every time. Finding out the truth was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I mean it. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best new beginnings, and I'm living proof of that. Trust your gut, folks, and never ignore those red flags, no matter how much you want to. What would you have done in my situation when Susan first called?